Welcome to the show, Ashleigh, and thank you for joining us here on Connections for Life.
Thanks for having me. How are you guys?
Hi,
Ashley.
hi Ash. How
How
are
are
you?
you?
Fair, you know.
Fair?
Fair enough.
to Midland?
Fair, yeah. Mediocre, you know.
I'm still
Life's
in my
going good, but
house.
you know. All right, so let's get right to it, Joe. Why don't you kick us our interview off here?
Oh, it's my turn. Well, Ashley, first and foremost, thank you for coming on. I know that everybody has a whole lot of stuff going on. I know it's a busy time. I know that you're trying to manage family and everything else, and obviously still maintain the level of work, right? So thanks for taking the time to come on our little program here. We really do appreciate it. In the intro, we talked about you being from Midwest Energy Association. Let's just, for all the people that may not know, talk a little bit about MEA and what exactly you guys do.
Sure. Well, as far as MEA goes, I'm certainly not the expert, but as an association, we've been around for about 115 years, and it started as Midwest Gas Association. So primarily for about 90 years, just in the gas arena, and then I think it was 1998 or 96, somewhere in there.
We're gonna fact check you.
Okay, that you should. You absolutely should. And then we added electric, so then it became both gas and electric, which is where it changed over to the Energy Association. And since then, it's really been about learning and kind of professional and personal development. And we don't do any lobbying or advocacy, which is typically what a lot of associations spend a lot of resources and time on. So our focus kind of through and through is on that content and the connection and the development of programs and things like that.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's
Cool.
really cool. Ashley, we talked before this. We talked the other day kind of about how we wanted to go with this whole interview and what we wanted to talk about and some of the things. And I think, once again, a renowning word that comes up and it's part of our show is connections.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you put it, which was pretty wild, and I don't think I ever looked at it this way, and I don't think any of us did, was the fact that your job is pretty much to make connections for the most part. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you and the organization facilitate them?
Yeah, it was actually something that I kind of had to come around to when I first started. Before working at MEA, I worked at a different association for a number of years, and I had to kind of figure out what an association was, because it wasn't something that I sought out or like went looking for. And I was looking for this like business value proposition thing that didn't really seem to exist in the tangible sense that I was used to. And it took me some time working in conference management and working with different groups and different kind of careers to learn that it's really about facilitating that connection. And I think a good association, they position themselves in a way that they become kind of a hub for an industry. So you come to that group to be able to connect to all the other spokes on the wheel and really kind of build your network. And if we're doing our job right, we're kind of that central pivotal point. But really, I mean, that's the role of the learning. That's the role of the group.
Fantastic description.
It's really,
Yeah.
when you described that, it gave me the very like localized feel of like you're a regional or a national chamber of commerce almost for the energy industry. So that is a great analogy there.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. A lot of what we do actually has carryover and pass through with the Chamber of Commerce's and things like that. So there's a lot of overlap in those organizations.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing I think that most of us know you for, or I guess identify with MEA is obviously your trade shows, right? Like we all spend a lot of time together at industry shows, and there's tons of them out there. I know that for the most part, most everything's been canceled this year. Obviously, with everything that we're going through, we've really put a hold on all that. I guess as your organization kind of deals with this, just like everyone else, what are you guys maybe doing a little bit differently, or some of the things that you're trying to do differently to again, can you keep those connections and extend those connections, in a time where you can't do the normal things that you would do, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. I think the interesting thing is, like you asked, like what we're doing differently or new. Everybody at this point, because none of it is the norm. I think
it's all new, right?
Figure out what it is, and so there really is a lot that's happening that's different. But I don't know that it'll always remain like that unique proposition. But I think what we did well, and what I'm really proud of our our team for doing is taking a step back when all this started to happen and really evaluating, what we do well, what opportunities we have, and also kind of owning the conversation with our volunteers and our members and our industry to find out where they were at. And then recognizing that what we're going to do isn't going to be a perfect substitute for what we're used to. There's not going to be, like, you can't replicate like drinks at the reception with your buddies.
No.
Like, it's just not going to happen. And so rather than pretending that we could facilitate a happy hour online, we kind of took a step back and said, what can we do and what can we do well? And, I think we've been able to kind of pick up on some of those kind of key elements. We're focusing on providing content that transitions well to an online format. And we're talking, we're really focusing on what connections can be made during the time between vendors and utilities, and how do we get questions answered? How do we allow for kind of fact finding and, digging in and finding out that information? And so really evaluating what tools we need, and then also looking at, what can we do to make this a memorable event that doesn't replace what we would normally do, but kind of pushes us into the next year. So keeps momentum going and maybe
wow factor.
Engagement. Yeah. So it's a lot of those kinds of things. And I think we're looking at a year where it's going to be all virtual or all online, but we're going to have people who participate this year who've never done it before and never come and wouldn't necessarily get approval to go to Rochester. So yeah, in my mind, that's an opportunity to bring in a whole other kind of group of participants. And I think that's exciting. So I think there's a lot of upside if you're willing to look for it.
That's really cool.
I just want to say one thing, Chad. I know you're going to jump to a new question.
No, go ahead.
I just want to say, I think that was the whole purpose of the reason that we tried to do what we're doing, from a different angle. Like, you guys are trying to connect, but we're just trying to just do something that, I don't know if it was a relevance thing, Ted. I think it was just more of like, how are we going to be able to convey or get a message out or talk to the people that we typically work with in a time like this? It's very difficult, and
I do think it was relevance at first, Joe. I do think it was relevance at first, and then it became that we love it. I mean, that's part of it. It's like,
maybe it's just really unique. I mean, I think that if I had called you 3 months ago and said, hey, you want to come on Connections for Life, we'd be like, what the hell is Connections for Life, right? Like, we wouldn't even this opportunity wouldn't even existed. And we're so very fortunate to have like just this opportunity, but also the show and have you guys on to talk about the things that you do, because we all sit at your trade shows and we all go to them. We go to hundreds of them, right? We just don't really ever understand what happens behind the scenes. And I think that's going to lead to what Chad was going to ask. Like,
that's a perfect
Chad, I'll let you take it over there. So.
I mean, my favorite, I kind of told you the other day when we talked that one of the things I think I wanted to hear most was just about the planning of the show. I mean, you guys put on a heck of a show. The one in August is I know, a really good show. Joe talks about it all the time. I have yet to be there. Maybe next one. I hope so.
Yeah.
But I know you do a ton, and I always want to run around and ask people that have something to do with putting these on, what does that take? When do you start planning? Does it start immediately the day after it's over? Does it take all year? It's got to be.
How many people do you need required to do it? Like, what do we not see behind the scenes to be able to come to a trade show and have dinner?
We show up for 3 days and we're like, yeah, this is great, and then we leave. And your job is to facilitate that for us. So I guess just a little bit of the backstory and the fun parts, and maybe a bad one too.
I want to hear that.
I don't have that. No, I'm just kidding.
You definitely do.
As long as I'm not in the story, I'm fine with it.
No, but I mean, really, it's funny when you go to them as a participant, and I've been on both sides of that, but you watch a trade show, and specifically the exhibit part of it, you watch it be built over the course of, and like ones that are convention center size scale, like I was at an international association, and it was like a full convention center. It takes a week to set up, but when you're done, it takes like 12 hours and it's gone, and it doesn't even look like it was there, right? Like, it's just unreal.
It's so strange.
Yeah,
it's like a pop-up event, right? It's like
it looks like that to people, but no, I mean, we start planning typically, and stop me if I'm getting too into the nitty-gritty. I know this is like my day-to-day, so
that's okay. Cool.
That's
Talk about it.
Yeah, please.
So basically, as I start the process of planning, I would say it's about a 2-year cycle on average, because we get to about 2 years out from an event, and you're looking at trying to figure out, the where and the when and the contracting and the vendor partners for different hotels and food and beverage, you know, making sure that your budgets align with that and you do all your negotiations. So even that part, I mean, that part starts about 2 years out with sending out RFPs and getting those things back, then narrowing it down and doing some site visits, working with the steering committee on their feedback. Then that kind of gets to the point of contracting, and really the big stickler with that is that you want to make sure you're contracted for the following year before you actually have the event that happens that year, so that you can talk about it and where it's going to be and what dates and all of that. So it kind of overlaps right around that 1 year mark pretty distinctly. And then at the 1 year mark, we actually typically meet with all of our committees in person when we're at the event, and they start planning for the following year. So they're starting on that kind of same day.
That's awesome.
To look at all the content they want to bring in for the coming year's education. And then we go through kind of initial planning. They draft up agendas and we go through that. And then we take those agendas and it goes through kind of a cleanup process, and we make sure there's not too much on one topic, not enough on another. We're only serving this kind of pocket of or piece of the pie, all of those things. And then once we have a pretty good agenda, we start meeting probably 1 or 2 times a month, the different committees, and they work on finding the speakers and the right people. And then I'm working at that time with our marketing team to build out the website and the marketing campaign and getting registration up for exhibitors about 10 months out and attendees about 6 months. And then all of that comes to head, and it's just logistics.
It does sound like
I'm tired.
I'm
tired already. So I did want to say one thing though that's really unique there and interesting is that I know that a lot of people have said to me, like, why that show's not till August? Why are we canceling it in June? And I think that just gives people perspective, because it's not like you say, you know, a month before you're gonna have a show, hey, let's have a show, right? Like it's all that prep that goes into it. And the reason that their shows are being canceled is because you can't get it all done in the amount of time that you're gonna be allotted. So I just wanted to point that out, because that question's been asked.
Connex this year, they couldn't cancel Connex in time as the COVID stuff was starting to push in here. Connex was too close to launch to be able to do it. And in retrospect, I mean, it paled in comparison to normal years because of that. So
it's tough. I mean, it's like your years. I actually this year I was talking to a fellow meeting planner from a different organization, and we were just talking about how you go again, like it's 2 years of your work into like one program. And this year for all of us, it's been like, well, yeah, but this year they've all been canceled. So like you go for like 2 years of your work now is like out the window, and you got to start over. So there's, I mean, that was an adjustment. Yeah.
I mean, that goes.
That's like trying to sell stuff too. Like,
that's like, everything's
going away.
About that.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I think, you know, we kind of talked about it. I know then we were going to talk about like what's the most challenging aspect. I don't think there's probably one really significant one. There's probably several, and it depends on each show and each environment and each, you know, particular instance, you know. I guess, you know, again, we didn't talk about this, but I want to deviate a little bit like I always do, because that's who I am.
Good job.
You know, we talk about like today, and we talked about 3 months ago what today would look like, and now like let's talk like what do you think you know the end of this year looks like? I mean, what are you guys hopeful for? What is MEA talking about as far as what their goals are and plans are going into into 2021? I think 2020 we can figure is just kind of a wash. We're gonna have to like hit the restart button, but you know, what's that look like to you guys?
Well, if I had a like crystal ball, I wish I had a better answer, but I think truthfully, I mean, we don't know, none of us know, but I think what we're doing right now is planning for like kind of all contingency plans. I think that 2021 is unlikely, just from a perspective of in-person learning, and even just from talking to hotels and our venue partners and things like that. I don't foresee it going back to normal that quickly in those places. I think, you know, those places here in Minneapolis, our hotel partners like aren't even open in some of these situations. And so like, there's just pieces of it that are going to come together.
Right.
We're going to have to start taking into consideration social distancing. So if I had a space that worked for 150 people in one room before, that now probably only works for 75.
Well, this basically made your job a lot harder.
Our jobs, our partners. I mean, there's just a lot of things to consider.
Sure.
So we're really hopeful that there's a place where right now we're kind of crash course learning how to do virtual in some of these places, but you know, hybrid events are going to become a part of the conversation, I think, in a big way. We're going to talk about all of that and see if we can't bring in-person and virtual together in a way that 2021 looks a little more like that.
Definitely. And I think, you know, hopefully, I think one of the things that we've talked about, and one of the things is like, you know, we want to figure out what this show looks like and where we go, right? You know, I mean, we don't want to just interview everybody for 52 consecutive weeks and this is the content that we put out, because eventually things are going to go back to normal and this show is going to have not as much validity to it. So we're hopeful to work with folks like you guys to maybe figure out some creative ideas and some ways that maybe we can use our, you know, the things that we've done and some of the things that you're looking to do and maybe interact a little bit more on that level. We're certainly on board to do that. You know, we're gonna probably end.
Yes.
Yes,
he
froze. A little bit lengthy.
He froze. I love it.
He froze.
You know, I did for a second. I saw.
No, you're
that.
still frozen. That's what's great. Your picture.
Oh, am I? That's the funniest part. It looks like Ted's picture when he puts it up when he goes.
You're talking, but
yeah, we hear you.
So, anyways, here's my headshot. But But no, seriously, we're really looking forward to what that looks like and where we can go with you guys and all the people that we are connecting with and keeping that network, you know, just up and continuing to push forward. Am I still frozen?
You're
gone. Still frozen.
There's our
What's better is watching Chad.
Stuff.
What's better is actually watching Chad's reaction. He looks like John Gruden when he used to narrate Monday Night Football.
We've done so many of these shows, and we've never had this happen. Like, it's just been
this is great,
audio, video
It's
disaster.
kind of funny, though, especially just talking about how we're all trying to be virtual.
It's human, right? Yeah.
It's not human. That's the worst part. It's
well, yes, that's true.
It's a new way to live, and I don't know.
What's
if
funnier is
it's
usually
not,
Chad who freezes like that, though.
You look great, though, Joe.
Am I still really frozen?
You're 100%. Yes.
Oh, I'm gone.
You should just wrap it up. Yeah, you're gone.
All right.
Well, anyways, with that, I guess Zoom's telling me we gotta go. So, I mean, with that being said,
there's a nice plug for Zoom, by the way, as well.
I know you guys can't see me, but thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. We look forward to working with you guys a little bit closer and hopefully being able to put those, as we have said 34 times, connections together. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't get us going though, because we got some crazy ideas about doing some stuff at one of your shows. So
we'll just like rein it in slightly. Now we're good.
Yeah, there's gonna have to be a meeting.
All right. Hey, thanks for coming on Connections for Life, Ash.
Thanks again, Ashleigh.
Thank you.